Yeah.
So 3-week progressive overload. Now, when you say progressive overload, are we talking about the dynamic day where we're going up percentages, or we're talking about like the actual max effort day where you're sticking with the same lift and maybe you're adding
So
reps or pounds?
yeah, it was actually interesting. And I'm kind of with Chris on this thought
Mm-hmm.
process. So true Westside, you know this, but for those of you guys that don't, there's a max effort day and there's a dynamic day, right? The max effort day is where we get the most amount of weight on the back, accessory load, and then dynamic day is all about bar speed. Chris thought, and maybe, gosh, this was again almost 10 years ago now, but in conversations with Chris, Chris really thought the dynamic effort day was recovery. He didn't think that
Mm-hmm.
bar speed was the key to you getting stronger. He thought the max effort day with accessory work was the real crux to getting stronger. And a dynamic effort day allowed you to recover to hit that max effort day hard again. Um, and so he took that approach of saying, hey, we are going to do a lift for your one to
Mm-hmm.
tap into the CNS and make sure that we're
Mm-hmm.
able to fire everything at once to get the absolute most out of our contractile potential. But I'm telling you, the accessory stuff was no joke. It was not like, it was not your typical 3 sets of 8 to 10 reps. I mean, we were doing these things. He would call them giant sets, and it was vicious, man. It was,
Delicious.
we would
Yes.
go, I would have
Yes.
to do basically two failure back to back. I did 20 stiff leg deadlifts, immediately followed by max rep leg extension, which he wanted me to cap out about 20 or 30 reps,
This
immediately
extension.
followed. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. With
Okay.
a
Okay.
band
Extension
because I didn't have
with
a machine. So I'd
yeah.
use a
Rock on.
band.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then immediately into a set of 10 front squats. And so I was like, for
Mm.
me, I was 275 for the set of 20 on the stiff leg deadlift, green band at 30 reps, and 225 for a set of 10 unbroken. I mean, like head popping off stuff. And it's
Mm-hmm.
as hard as you make it, right?
Right.
Right.
But
Right.
this was not, I mean, this is not your casual accessory work. This was like, I would argue, like West Side guys. I never saw West Side guys do stuff like that. I saw them
No.
do individual pieces,
Yeah.
but I mean, Chris put them back to back to have it be something where it was all about time under tension and cycling weight,
Mm-hmm.
like heinous. It was really hard.
Yeah.
And if you got after it, I was exhausted, wiped.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and that was his approach, was we still did the max effort day followed by accessory work. And then my dynamic effort days are basically CrossFit.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were in that setup. You're doing 275 stiff leg for 20.
Yeah.
That's
Which
that's pretty rough. How many sets are you doing of that? How many giant sets are you going through? 4?
two.
2?
You do two with
Okay.
a 5-minute rest. So you do
5-minute
the,
rest.
yep, you do the 20 leg extension, 10, rest 5 minutes,
Yep.
do the same thing again. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, other stuff, you know, like a set of 20 alternating front rack lunge and then front squat. So
Mhm.
a lunge squat for 20. Like what? Who does that? You know? Yeah, like that right into. So there's quite a bit of a conditioning element to that as well.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I'm glad you said that, because that's the real thing going on there, I think, is the amount of work capacity from the outside looking in. Because I mean, I've utilized a lot of that stuff in my own training. It's amazing if you took someone that was training like that, remove all the CrossFit element from it and just said, okay, we're going to do CrossFit now. I think people would be blown away at the kind of shape they're in if they were doing something like that for a substantial period of time, because like you said, there's so much work capacity transpiring in a giant set like that. It transfers over so well because you're just such a robust human to be able to recover from that and push weight through a tremendous amount of fatigue too. There's a lot of bang for your buck there.
Yeah, and I think for those that are really aerobic, it starts to turn you into an anaerobic athlete. So pros and cons, right? If you need that, that's the recipe, but be careful because if you do that too much, when you start to go for the 5 mile run, you start to lose that translation. So again, you got to find that balance. But I'm telling you, I honestly think this is going to sound maybe like biased, but I think it's absolutely too much for your average Joe. And I think too many people can't wrap their head around like the pain cave that you have to go in to get the benefit out of it. I mean, it is exhausting if you really put the screws to. If you do it
Yes.
right, the
Yep.
way that it's written,
Yeah.
you could easily make that 20 leg extension 10 really reasonable, rack
Yep.
your 10 front squats, walk over, grab your coffee, and be breathing a little bit. Or you could really challenge yourself and be on the floor afterwards.
Well, and if you do that too, the mentality that goes with that, you're not just doing that for a single workout, and it's not random. So you know you're coming back the next week to do that again.
Yeah.
That right there is crippling to an overwhelming amount of people. I think that's why people that train with someone, like if you're someone to jump in and follow along with you and do that, you could take 10 people, and there might be one person, like not just 10 average people, like 10. You could take 10 CrossFit members. There might be one at the end of it that's like still like mentally excited about doing that.
Totally. Because in the back of my head, I'm thinking, well, maybe I can do, the stiff leg at 280 next week. And maybe I can do the front squat at 230 next week. And it just completely changes because you know what you're in for. You know.
Right. Yeah.
Oh man. So I mean, it was stuff like that. Yeah. It works. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I was around Chris Mason for like 2 years, my first 2 years at Westside. So like 2012, 2013.
Yeah.
I never openly talked to him about like training like CrossFitters, but he was very, very clever in that, well, this is what they have to do. So I'm going to put them in such a suck, and a like perfectly executed suck. Like you have technique beyond technique. So he knows he can throw this on you and you're going to execute it at a high level. But you're right. For normal people, they can't do that. And if they do it, they won't really get much out of it. And whenever I work with CrossFitters for, with regional or games level, like they usually start with minimum supersets because that's what their game is. Like a Westside lifter, that's not their game.
Right.
The game's pieces by pieces, but for you guys, it's just how much time or attention can you go through and recover from it and come back better, because that's going to make you much better on the floor.
Yep. Totally. And I think that's the crux of it. But